This episode is proudly brought to you by Soultaker Fightwear, official partners of the Jiu Jitsu podcast. From premium fightwear to fully customized gis, Soultaker helps athletes and academies create kit they're proud to wear. I love my own custom Jiu Jitsu podcast gi. Ready to design yours? Get in touch with Soultaker Fightwear today. You're listening to the Jiu Jitsu podcast, and I'm Lou Temlett. I know you're having a good day because either you've been on the mats, considering getting on the mats, or maybe you're making Jiu Jitsu fun and accessible. I'm so happy you're here listening or watching this episode. Please don't tap out before the end. When you have the best Jiu Jitsu academy, brag about it. I'd like to welcome Angie Vogel to my podcast.
Hello,
Angie.
thank you.
You are very welcome. It's lovely to chat with you.
I should have started like this. Like the thumbnail.
I love it. I love it.
It might have to be my signature move.
Okay, so I haven't met Angie before. However, I have purchased a number of her designs from the Jiu Jitsu Company. One being this lovely rash guard. I can't even read it back to front. Okay, I'm in my basic bitch knee cut era. Fionn Davis. So that's the rash guard. I think you might have been promoting a number of rash guards at the time because I have three. One very amazing Christmas one that I was very pleased to get because I think you'd sold out back in 2024, and I was happy to have whatever size and whatever design. I just wanted a Christmas rash guard as a white belt, and various others since. But explain who you are and what you do, Ange, in the realm of jiu-jitsu, of course.
And I mean, there's not that much outside of it. But in the realm of jiu-jitsu, I am a second-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. I've been training for about 15 years. I co-own a jiu-jitsu academy with my husband, Josh. And I am also the designer, packer, social media maker of the Jiu Jitsu Company Fightwear, which is sort of our, not new, but newest outside venture / side hustle.
Before we started recording, we talked about all the different things in jiu-jitsu, and actually anyone that's listening is probably breathing jiu-jitsu, and that's the kind of existence. But you more than anyone, Ange, because of all of the kind of all of the activities that you're doing. But I don't know where to start. Let's talk about your jiu-jitsu journey. For those that don't know, 15 years, second degree black belt. That's pretty impressive.
It's been a long time. So I initially started, Josh was training. He was already a brown belt. And, we were married before. We were together for a long time before he even started training. And so I was sort of on the sidelines for about 8 years, and I had zero interest in jiu-jitsu. Like, he would talk about it and I would just glaze over and be like, that sounds horrible. And he had to teach a seminar one time, and he needed a ride. And I said, well, what am I going to do for 2 hours? And he goes, why don't you just come in and sit and watch? I was like, okay, cool. That sounds great. So I'm sitting on the side, and there's this pocket of women, maybe 3 or 4 women working together. Of course, the rest of this is 2011. So not unheard of for women to train, but not as prevalent as it is now, thankfully. But and of course, not knowing anything, I had the audacity to correct them. And I was like, oh, I think you're, oh, dude, now I cringe so hard because I didn't know anything about the community or anything. So I'm like, oh, I think your foot is in the wrong spot, based on what Josh was showing. And they're like, oh my God, he must teach you so much stuff. I'm like, girl, I don't even train, but I'm just saying your foot's in the wrong spot. And now that I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, if I were sitting on the mat now, I'd be like, who is this white belt? Tell me what to do. So I think at first it didn't occur to me that women even trained. I knew there were some women at the gym where Josh was training, but it just, I guess I never really thought about it. I didn't really think about what it was or like if it would be fun. I
Yep.
didn't consider myself an athletic person at all. Never did any kind of like outside of like jogging and like whatever jazzercise videos they had in the 90s. But yeah, so I talked to Josh and I was like, I'm thinking about starting. I think it'd be really fun. But we were concerned because it was kind of his thing and I had my
Yeah.
own things and we weren't sure how it would blend together, like if it would feel weird or awkward. Um, and honestly, it ended up being like the start to like a whole other layer of relationship for us. But
Uh,
I mean, obviously, like a transition started into an entire lifestyle where we literally do breathe jujitsu. I mean, that's the only thing that we have.
yeah.
Not the only thing we have in our life, but it is the center point where all other branches start from.
Okay, we'll move on from breathing jiu-jitsu, but you mentioned about exercise videos and jogging
Mhm.
in the 90s. Um, I There was a thought whenever people talk to me on podcasts, there's always thoughts that go through my mind and I go, oh, I remember doing stuff in the 90s and the 2000s. Billy Blank's Taibo kickboxing or something like that. Um,
I
I'll
don't think
have
I
to
ever
find
did
the
that one,
DVDs
but
again. Okay, so your thing was jazzercise, was it?
well, not jazz. Jazzercise, I say in jest, but the idea of like doing a video, right? Like putting a video in or finding a video on cable internet or
Yeah,
whatever it was back then. And doing this like 30-minute video with like, 5-pound dumbbells.
yeah,
But that was what we were exposed to, right? So it's like I remember
yeah,
having gym class. Like, so I'm 47. I was in high school in the early 90s, right? So from 93 to 97. Um, Gym class was like, I don't know, I think we did like volleyball or something. It was just
yeah,
like, I don't know, it's kind of an afterthought. I don't think like America had that push for fitness yet.
yeah.
And so we just weren't exposed to that much stuff. Other than like maybe some like funny kung fu movies, I never thought about martial arts at all.
Right.
So yeah, it was like basically like, okay, you had a tape or I guess a DVD at a certain point, and you just
Okay,
popped it.
we're old, but not that. Okay, we do remember tapes, but fitness stuff was
Oh,
DVD.
I
Surely.
had VHS for sure, and then was excited to see a DVD. I remember when CDs came out, so like I'm pretty old. I mean,
I'm
as far
older than you are, Ange.
as far as streaming technology is concerned, this is all
Yeah.
new kind of to me. So
Yeah, it's all good. Anyway, we diversify with what we were kind of exposed to from a fitness perspective. For a lot of women, there wasn't the exposure to martial arts back in the 90s or early 2000s, and I think we've come such a long way. But I do feel like our exposure to exercise styles back then have formed a little bit our creativity and our mindset for martial arts today.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's still growing and evolving into where women will be within sport in general, right? So like I think the idea of young girls growing up and thinking that they can be athletes and thinking that this even insofar as like owning academies and being leadership in jiu-jitsu specifically, but also in other exercise forms, lifting, doing all these great things. So I think it's exciting to see like our kids class is almost all young girls. I
Yeah.
love that so much because that is not something that I saw. And so I think just exposing women to just a greater variety of employment later on in
Yeah.
life or enjoyment later on in life is so great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy to be a small part in it.
Well, I think in based in Philadelphia, you make up a kind of great proportion of the jiu-jitsu kind of vibe. Josh was on episode 93, so we've already heard from his perspective. But let's go back to your jiu-jitsu journey after you took accountability for sharing how people that had already started training jiu-jitsu should do their jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I mean, so that was a long journey from start to finish. So I think I don't know the specifics, but you know how there's those like 7 stages of relationships that people talk about, and it's like you're that honeymoon phase, and then so on and so forth. I went through all of those with jiu-jitsu as well. Okay. So it started out in that like hot and heavy, this is the coolest, I'm going to be so good at this. Yeah. And then transitioned into that, like, if you're not training hard, then don't even train. And then it was like, boom, major injury. Right. Oh. And I tore my rotator cuff. I had to have surgery. That was a big pivot point for me in my jiu-jitsu, because when I came back and while I was recovering, I really could only focus on teaching. I could focus on teaching. I could train a little bit, but I couldn't do everything that I wanted to do. I certainly wasn't a killer by any means on the mat. And up until then, I was really successful at jiu-jitsu. Like, I was good at jiu-jitsu, and I enjoy being good at jiu-jitsu. It's one of my favorite parts of jiu-jitsu. I'm like a means to an end kind of person. But I really had to start thinking about longevity. And, I didn't start till I was in my 30s. And so I was already like older as far as, athletes were concerned. And it really changed the way that I thought about how people could do jiu-jitsu, what was valuable on the training floor versus just like hard training. And it just, I'm grateful. It was super painful. I don't recommend having your rotator cuff torn, but if it does happen, you might have a pivotal moment in your life like I did. But it just started to become something different for me. It started to become a lifestyle. It started to become something that could be more accessible to more people. Yeah. I started to judge people for how they trained a lot less, because I didn't want to be judged for how I was training. Right. And so you like, I was like, wait a second, like, what business do I have to tell someone else what their value is on the mat? Right. And so, I think for me that moment, and that was sort of mid purple belt right before I got my brown belt. And so I really spent a lot of my brown belt, which I was a brown belt for about 3 years, just changing myself, changing the way that I showed up on the mat, changing the way that I instructed, changing the way that I helped develop the culture of the gym where we were training. And that was a big lesson for me. I went into my black belt a very different person than when I started jiu-jitsu. Very different. Yeah.
Do you remember some of those early days as a white belt and a blue belt, only asking for a friend?
Like, oh God, there's so many. It's just it's so fun, and it's one of the things that sticks in my mind about being like a baby jiu-jitsu, like a little baby, is like, it's fun even though you suck, right? And you don't suck. You guys are great. You guys are great. But like, you don't know anything, and then it's like, you're I don't know, you're just so new, and it's so cute. Now it's so cute to me. But like, I think just, being okay with not knowing something is such a special quality. And it's not easy for a lot of people to overcome that idea of like, oh my God, like, I am a fish out of water here. I don't know that I fit in personally. I don't know that I fit in this sport, or if I'm athletic enough, or I'm this enough or that enough. And just being okay with like that, like sucking at jiu-jitsu never stops. Right. If you're really in it. And the idea of like, I mean, I literally said yesterday, I took 2 weeks off of training. I came back and I was the worst piece of crap black belt you've ever seen. I was like, what am I doing? I can't breathe. I was like breathing out of my mouth. I forgot how to pass the guard. I mean, it was terrible. And that's only 2 weeks. I've been training forever for 15 years. And so, like, I think that idea of like, oh, I'm going to be so good at this point, that doesn't really exist.
Okay.
Because you're always going to be chasing that next level of jujitsu if you're doing it
Yeah.
right, in my opinion, right? It's like
Okay.
you're never resting on your laurels. So, like, don't lose that sense of like, I don't know anything,
Okay.
because that's never going to stop. It's never going to stop.
Okay, that's very reassuring. But
Yes.
one of the things I found throughout mostly my kind of blue belt time is I feel like I'm having existential kind of life crises. My most recent one is feeling like I don't belong.
Mm,
And it's kind of all consuming. And it feels like, for me, jujitsu has triggered some of those life growth opportunity moments
yeah.
more than anything else
Yeah.
in life.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything that you kind of recall from your journey where you've kind of started to question or feel growth or have to deal with some of the difficult things in life?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you've done something like this for a long time, like you're going to experience life's ups and downs.
Mm.
And also feel like you're not part of the group. I think one of the things that, like, I will say that I had a different experience at white and blue belt because I was married to one of the instructors. And so I don't want to, like, I mean, there's cliques, there's people that are friends. It is what it
Yeah,
is. I mean, humans do what they do.
yeah,
And so I didn't have that feeling of being on the side. That
yeah,
wasn't something that I experienced personally, but
yeah,
I did see that in other people. Um, and something that really stands out in my mind is I remember going to they don't have this camp anymore, but it was so great. Groundswell grappling camp. And it was with Emily Kwok and Valerie Worthington. They're the coolest, by the way. I don't see them or
yeah.
talk to them much anymore, but they've always been super influential to me in my jujitsu as I came up at that time. And one of the girls was asking, like, well, how do I keep women in jiu-jitsu? And at that time, Zleka Vieira was the instructor. And she said, well, what are you doing to make them stay?
Mm.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm not doing anything. And so for me, that like, when I see someone that maybe feels uncomfortable or maybe is not fitting in, like that's who I'm reaching out to.
Yeah,
Because some people are they're naturally good at fitting in. They're naturally good at like starting up conversations and just inserting themselves into a group that already exists. And
yeah,
some people are not. And so I think, folding them into the group is where leadership is important. That to me is like the ultimate leadership. Like, how can I get everyone to feel as though they're part of the same team? That's something
yeah.
that's really important to me owning a school, but also, like, I think just in leadership in general, that's an important skill.
Yeah. I think you've raised a very kind of key fundamental bit for any gym owners, that you bring people in, that you make them want to stay and be part of your community,
Hmm.
because it's not just a jiu-jitsu club or an academy. You're building part of the wider community. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, it's really hard to explain, um, like, to normies, to people that don't train, like what doing jujitsu is like, because I feel
Yeah.
like they think it's like, I'm not even sure. It's been so long. I don't even know what regular people think about jujitsu, but I expect, and I know from new students coming in, and typically I'm the first person that they interact with at the gym, is it's exercise to them. It's a thing that's exercise. It's interesting exercise. It's a combat sport, because most people have this understanding sort of from MMA or maybe jujitsu, the sport, but mostly MMA, I think, is what gets people kind of in the door.
Yeah.
And they don't know what it's like to be in in an environment where you have to have ultimate trust, right? It's like, I trust that you're going to stop when I say
Yeah.
stop. I trust that you are not going to purposely try and hurt me. I
Yeah.
trust that we are agreeing to do this thing, and that if at any given moment it's not working for both of us, and we can stop and reset, right?
Yeah.
That creates a bond that I have never seen anywhere else in
Yeah.
any other thing that I've ever done. And so it's very hard to market that part of jujitsu from
Yeah.
a business perspective. Um, it's very hard to explain that to people that don't do jujitsu. Like, why does jujitsu become so consuming, right? Why has it
Yeah.
become part of your life in such a way? And for some people, it's just, that's a thing that I think is missing from modern society, right? This like, I mean, not only just the physical touch of it, I think that's important too, but just
Yeah.
that camaraderie and that belonging that can happen on the mats is unlike anything I've experienced. And it's so fulfilling, and so fun. Um, and the parts of jujitsu I think are hard to overcome are you are carried through by the people,
Yeah.
right? And so if you are on the outside of that, it becomes even more difficult to stay the course in jujitsu because it's so hard. It's just such
Yeah.
a hard activity.
Yeah. I think any of us that have already started jiu-jitsu do know how challenging a journey it is. But we'll
Mhm.
come back to that in a moment. Community spotlight on the Jiu Jitsu Company. Based in Philadelphia, the Jiu Jitsu Company is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu academy committed to helping people of all ages and experience levels build confidence, develop their skills, and, most importantly, enjoy the journey of training. With a welcoming culture and experienced coaching, they provide a supportive environment where beginners and experienced grapplers alike can learn, grow, and be part of a thriving community. If you're in the Philadelphia area and looking for a place to train, visit jujitsuphilly.com to find out more. This is the Jiu-Jitsu Lou podcast with me, Lou Temlett, coming to you from the UK for now. Keep checking out the clips that drop as soon as I've recorded an episode, usually way before the episode goes live. And as always, like, subscribe, follow, do all of those great engagement things because the algorithms are playing up at the moment. Anyway, today I'm having a conversation with Angie Vogel from the Jiu Jitsu Company. Ange, let's talk about the kind of hard things, but also the trust that we have in people in jiu-jitsu. For me, building business around jiu-jitsu and knowing that you have that trust, whether it's on the mats or whether it's in business outside of that, there becomes a growing level of reassurance that we
Mhm.
may not feel outside of the jiu-jitsu community. Talk to us about how important trust is for you as a business owner and as a black belt coach.
Yeah, I think it's everything, honestly. I think on a lot of different layers. So we start the trust building with being transparent. For us, since day one, it's been very much about being first and foremost, this is a business. We are going to be transparent about why we price the way that we do. Even just as far as having our prices on the website, right? Why we structure the classes in the way that we structure them, why we have certain expectations for behavior. We are very open to being questioned. I might not always respond well. Like I might be like, well, what do you know? Right. Like and sometimes people don't know and they're genuinely just asking. But, I think being able to start that trust off with, hey, this is the thing that we're trying to do. We want you to love it and it's okay if you don't, but this is why we're doing what we're doing. That's the first part, I think, of from a business perspective, bringing people in. And, we get a lot of feedback all the time from people that are new students that are just kind of like, I really just love that your schedule and your prices are right online for everybody to see. And it's like, I understand from a marketing perspective why you need to get people in the door first before you tell them, because jiu-jitsu is really hard to explain. It's hard to sell. But we have just found that that's actually worked so well for us. But I think that is because we are here. We are accessible at all times, right? Like you could ask us anything at any time on the mat, on the side, in the lobby, wherever we are. So I think that, I think building trust with your students from a coaching perspective and from an instructor's perspective is they choose how they get to do jujitsu, and you are there to facilitate how they do jujitsu.
Yeah.
It's not for you to dictate it, it's for you to suggest as a more experienced training partner, as a coach, as a professional, right? Like Josh and I have the luxury of being professional coaches and professional instructors. But it's not for you to tell them how they're going to train, right? So there are so many different times of life that we're in jujitsu. There are the young athletes, and they are, throwing themselves headfirst into competition, and you're there to facilitate that. You're there to give them great coaching, sometimes strong coaching, sometimes verbal abuse coaching, right? If that's what they want, sometimes that's what you're going to do, right? And there's also, the 40-plus-year-old dad who is really feeling the ego and really feeling like, hey, these guys are kicking my butt. I can only get in here twice a week. I have all these job constraints. I have all these life constraints, and this is what I'm working with. And it's not for me to say, hey, dad, you need to train like this guy, because that's how you're going to get good, right? And we're all trying to fit it into where it fits in. And so I think there's a trust level when you are coaching someone and saying, like, I'm going to meet you where you are, and I mean it. Okay. And sometimes that's going to be hard, because sometimes I am going to tell you you're not doing enough for what you want, right? And sometimes I'm going to tell you to be more realistic with your expectations of where you're going to get. And sometimes I'm telling you you're doing too much. It's you're making it too hard. And I think that coupled with like just being a person who does what they say they're going to do, those are those three major components of trust for me.
Yeah. That's thank you for sharing that. That was kind of a lot to take in. I'm going to be listening back to that. But what I really did feel for the 40-plus generation that are juggling all of the responsibilities, but we still want to get good. Do you have any advice for any of us that can only train twice a week to get better at jiu-jitsu?
Yeah,
is that what we should be doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think first I will say, and again, my journey has been different. I think I've had the ability to train full time for a long time. I think building a relationship where jiu-jitsu is fun is the most important aspect of longevity in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. If it's fun, you'll train when you don't feel great. You'll train when you're super busy. You can only get in one day a week. You'll train when you are feeling amazing. If it's fun, if it's only hard and you're only the kind of person that wants to overcome adversity, you can thrive in jiu-jitsu. And I think there's this place for that in jiu-jitsu. But I think once you start hitting those big life milestones where like you've got tons of responsibility, your body is not at its best, right? For sure. Not always anyway. I mean, sometimes I feel pretty good, but it becomes really important to love the practice. This is something that I personally struggle with so hard, because I love being good at jiu-jitsu. I like winning. I like submitting my training partners, right? This is all great, fun parts for me. So but tempering that, I know nobody ever says that. I'm like, yo, I love winning. That's part of the reason I like jiu-jitsu.
Okay. I on a scale of loving and liking, I kind of feel like I'm not quite there yet. Mostly because I'm not submitting enough people, but I feel like I've got to work on that bit.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. Like there's no, like, I don't go out on the training floor being like, oh man, I can't wait to like tear up the training floor. But it is satisfying, I will say. It's satisfying to be good at jiu-jitsu.
All right. I will be working on becoming satisfied at being good at jiu-jitsu. That's fine. And submitting every training partner.
Oh, not every, trust me, but I try my hardest.
Okay. Do you have rounds with Josh, your husband?
Yes, the most frustrating of rounds. So
Oh,
interesting layer of mat happenings together at the same time. I do not have the emotional curtain that one has with acquaintances.
yes.
Um, and so the Josh is infinitely better at jujitsu than me. I mean, on like a whole other plane of black belt. And he can do whatever he wants. Like I can try my hardest to stop him, but he's
Yeah.
going to get what he wants to get. And he is very emotionally challenging for me to train with
Okay.
because he brings that ego out. And let me preface this by saying, like, I don't deserve to be as good at jujitsu as him because I don't work as hard as he does. He is singularly focused on being not only the best coach but the best practitioner that he can be, and he is very, very, very good at jujitsu. But when I train with him, because I don't have that, like, I can't check out with him, right?
Yeah.
Like I can't be, when I'm getting frustrated, it's easy to see that I'm getting frustrated. And I have to stop myself sometimes. In fact, yesterday I was training with him yesterday, and I've been working on, like, speaking of cut passing, because working on updating my cut passes, and I just can't do anything to him. I just can't. I can't get in a headquarters position. I can't even get close enough with before I get swept anyway. So I've really had to take a deep breath. And this is like while you're training, and I'm like, girl, you got to get it together. Like, this is just jujitsu. This is not like a marriage fight. This is not like a thing that a hill I have to die on. Like, you know what I mean? But like, so sometimes it's like, I just can't help but get frustrated. And I feel
Yeah.
like if that were happening in normal training with my regular training partners, or even like visitors, and we train with people all the time, different people that are challenging or better than me. And I don't get that. Like, I don't feel that
Wow.
part. It's just training. But because I have such a deep emotional connection to him, I think I feel very safe emoting everything.
Yeah.
Um, but I also have to check myself because it's not appropriate in that moment, and also doesn't serve me in the moment, right? Where I'm
Yeah.
like, this is not helping me be better at jujitsu.
Yeah.
He's still going to sweep me.
Thank you for sharing that moment and the frustration for any of us that have,
Yeah.
kind of partners on the mats that we can, kind of expose some of those boundaries, but know
Hmm.
that we can kind of check ourselves and behave slightly differently, but also have that awareness to notice we're training differently with different people, and I
Yeah.
think that's the real for me as a blue belt, the life lesson to mix up and change up the style and the intensity and all of those other things with every different person that I'm training with. I mean, that's just where I am right now. I wouldn't, and I will have to find my place. But for me, we were talking about the fitness in the 90s and early 2000s. I grew up dancing from a very young age. And for me, it's about mirroring and echoing the energy of my dance partner, and
Hmm.
I'm still kind of hanging on to that energy of um give them what they give you, rather
Yeah.
than setting that tone and intent as a jiu-jitsu practitioner from the outset. Do you feel like there's any space to set the tone for your own development, and kind of rounds with different people as a
Yeah.
starting point?
Yeah. I mean, I think the number one soft skill to build is communication, right? So I think um again, I do think we have a very special training floor here where there is a lot of advocacy for communicating what you want to get out of training.
Yeah,
I don't think that exists everywhere, and I don't think that's within every person to start, right? So I think
yeah,
some people that needs to be pulled out. Um, Not to say that I haven't gone through moments, even at JJC, where I've been training with somebody and I feel like the intensity level is upping and upping and upping. And instead of stopping it and saying, hey, this is not a great exchange, like, I'm not really
yeah,
sure what's going on, but let's stop and start again. We have been able to find the space to say afterwards, yeah, I feel like that got a little maybe intense, or like you're going like a little bit too hard, or maybe I was going too hard. I think, it takes two to tango, right? So I think there's a lot of responsibility to yourself, but there's
Yeah.
also responsibility in your training partner, that like, if I'm noticing that someone is looking frustrated, or maybe is getting upset, or maybe is starting to escalate, like, it doesn't have to necessarily be a verbal conversation. I can just relax a little bit.
Yeah.
And they might feel it and they might not feel it, right? And then if they continue to escalate to a point where you're feel like you might get injured, then it's time to stop and say, like, this is
Yeah.
getting out of control. But I think
Yeah.
on the other side of that, like, I do think that jujitsu requires the ability to be impositional, right? To say, like, I'm going to do my game.
Yeah.
But I think that sometimes can get construed, and I think especially in women, where you are imposing and people automatically think you're being aggressive. And you know, I think, just from my experience, like, guys don't say like, oh, like he's being super aggressive, or like because the person's imposing his will. But like when
Yeah.
it comes to women, it's like she's kind of aggressive. It's like, she's just trying to do her game. You know what I mean? And sometimes that
Yeah.
game is a crossface, and you're just going to have to deal, right? And it's interesting because I find it easier to pull women back in that way than it is to
Yeah.
teach them how to be impositional,
Okay.
because we're just not really raised that way. And I think especially for our generation, right, people in their
Yeah.
40s, mid 40s and up, it just wasn't something that we were really
No.
encouraged to do.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I'm kind of wanting some advice from you. Not that I always ask for advice, because I'm
Yeah,
still working on asking and asking for help. But if we're not in that kind of aggressive positional phase, how can we communicate more, or be, I don't know, I want to say better training partners, but just be better for ourselves on the mats,
yeah,
and set an intent that is what we want for the future. I always think about kind of developing out, I run a number of businesses, but for me it's thinking about the long-term goal, and
hmm,
then anything that I do works, it is a milestone towards that end game. But I
right,
haven't quite transferred that mindset to jiu-jitsu, or
yeah.
equally owned where I want to be in the future. That felt like quite a lot, but hopefully
Oh,
you,
I
you
get what you're saying. I mean, I think if you're on the opposite side, like, the coaching that I would give you is that you need to give yourself permission to want to win,
yeah,
right? And that is okay. Like, it is okay to explore the competitive parts of jujitsu. It doesn't make you a bad training partner if you want to win. It doesn't, in fact, sometimes it makes you a better training partner, right? It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad woman or mom or leader if you want to win. That's okay. A lot of people do jujitsu because they like that aspect of it. It's okay to want someone to bend to your will in jujitsu, right? You want to force them to do certain things. I look at that as technical abilities more than I look at that from a domination
yeah,
perspective. Um, I think if you came to me and said, "Hey, like, I'm really having a hard time not just kind of like letting people do things to me," that's the kind of coaching that I would say. It's like, it's okay if you want to win. It's okay if you are
yeah,
getting frustrated and you're trying to stop them from doing what they're doing. Like, let yourself be that person on the mat, because we said before, fake it till you make it is a valid strategy, right? Like, so
yes.
sometimes just channel your inner Fion and be like, hey, I'm getting to the headquarters, right?
I love it.
I'm
I love it.
yeah,
I think it's very much about giving ourselves the permission to do those things.
yeah,
I sometimes, I don't walk away with frustration. I'm like a bit complacent about my game sometimes. And I
hmm,
think having the permission to then feel all of the things that
yeah,
might be something like frustration is a healthy balance for learning jiu-jitsu.
It's one of those downsides of like that sort of like, oh, there's no ego in jiu-jitsu. There just has to be the right kind of ego. The ego that lets you pursue being better
Yeah.
is the best kind, right? Like the one that doesn't want you to fail, that's a problem, right? But the one that lets you fail and lets you ponder and question and problem solve
Yeah.
and then come back better the next day, or not better maybe skill wise, but better mentally prepared to work.
Yeah.
That's the best ego. I mean, we want that ego, because if you really don't care about getting better, like that's like nice in theory, but it's going to be harder in the sport, right? Because you're going to be beating your head against the wall. Like, what am I doing
Yeah.
wrong? And so I think that the problem with like the leave your ego at the door part becomes like, well, bring the right one, leave the
Okay.
crappy one out, but bring the good one. We want that because we want you to want to get better.
I think I love having conversations, and it's always seems to I have the right conversations at the right time for my own learning. So
That's
this is
perfect.
purely selfish
That's okay.
conversation, which is kind of great. And would you like to share or talk about any other topics? I feel like we could go on for a very long,
Oh
long,
my
long
gosh. I
format
know.
episode.
I mean, no, I want everyone to train. Try it once, right? I mean, I think, for us, like I said in the beginning, it's all about creating an accessible place for jiu-jitsu and meeting people where they are. And it's so fun. And I hope that it doesn't take people as long as it took me to let it be fun. Right? And so that's really where I'm at. That's where I'm at with the merch. It's just like, it's just
Yeah,
fun. It's just
yeah,
meant to be fun. And it doesn't mean you can't take it seriously. It doesn't mean that you can't be great at it. It doesn't mean you can't love submitting your training partners. It's totally fine. Just let it be fun in whatever ways it's fun for you.
I think that's what all of the things that you're saying are just great, and refocusing our jiu-jitsu back to fun, because if it's not, why the heck are we doing it?
Yeah.
But before we started recording, my perception of you online was quite quiet, but I discovered that is not the case.
I am not doing a good job if you think that I'm quiet. I'm not really sure. You know what? I think a lot of it is that I'm always behind the camera,
Yeah,
right? So, like, I'm the one that does all the content. And so I am never the voice of it. Part of that is by design. I want people to see the
yeah,
community of what we're
yeah,
building. That's very important to me, because I do think there's a lot of, and especially with socials and websites and online marketing, that's like very
mm,
much, hey, I'm the product and you guys are just here to facilitate my product, right? And I don't feel that way genuinely. Like, I'm so grateful for the community.
yeah,
I don't have the life that I have without the people that are involved in this.
yeah,
And so for me, it's very much about being in the back and showcasing all of the great things and people that we get to meet.
yeah.
But I've rarely like filmed myself doing anything, because I'm like, somebody would have to take the initiative to make the content, and that's usually what I'm doing. So
You'll have to nudge Josh
yeah,
to do some. Occasionally, it would be fantastic to see you. But I
okay.
also want to talk about the merch and the jujitsu kits that you produce. The most recent one, Bearoids.
Oh my
Is that right?
gosh. This is
I
my
love it.
crowning packaging achievement of all time.
I
And
love it.
I can't share the details of the follow-up because I need an unveiling moment for this. But Bearoids was so fun to do. So I'm sure you've seen the gummy bear trend at
Yeah.
JJC, which I wish had an exciting origin story, but basically someone brought a bag of gummy bears and it just spiraled out of control. And now it's our personality, and so we just have to go with it. But speaking of gummy bears, let me see, tip us down a little bit. But so I don't think that I can actually take credit for Bearoids. I feel like someone said it at some point at the gym.
Yeah.
Um, and it didn't stick until now. But yeah, I got this idea to package it up like a jar of supplements. And so it's a fun kit. It's our 5th anniversary at JJC, and so we did this 5th anniversary gummy bear explosion, and
Yep. It was
yeah, but
incredible. If any of you have missed it, go and check out a Jiu Jitsu Company online or on socials, because
yeah,
it was just incredible. You went to
it's super
great lengths. It is just immense.
it's I the follow up is epic. Honestly, you guys, it's not to be missed. It's coming soon. I'm just waiting for the deliverables.
Okay, that's fine. We'll keep it under wraps for now. But the rash guards, I was really intrigued to see a reversible rash guard. Where did that concept come from?
I wanted to, okay, so this is actually great. So one of our students, Cedric, he made this really cool, he is a graphic artist, videographer. I'm not really sure what his actual thing is, but he made us a super cool like animated video of this like reveal your inner gummy bear. And it was like a gummy bear like morphing into like a black belt. It was super cool. And I got this idea of like, oh, it's kind of like the Nogi mullet, right? Where it's like business on the outside, but then fun times on the inside, which I think
Yep.
is kind of jujitsu, right? And so it's I have this great manufacturer and he is willing to try anything. Um and there's a little bit of a language barrier because he's in China and I'm here and I don't speak Chinese and he speaks some English, but it's sometimes it's hard for us to communicate it. And it took us some time to get there. But I thought, oh, it'd be so fun if you can just like some days you're just feeling that gummy bear vibe. And some days you're like, I'm here in the basic black rash guard today.
Yep.
You know, maybe I'm not feeling that joy. So
I do love the fact that there's different personas. And before I started recording, I decided to find the rash guards that you had designed and produced from the Jiu Jitsu Company to work out which one to wear today, because I like to echo the vibe of my guest. And then I realized just how many rash guards I had. And actually, with a
OG,
reversible
OG from the beginning.
I know I'm going to gift some this weekend, so that's fine. It's reducing it by a little. But if they were reversible rash guards, I could have less rash guards, but more designs. Sounds
Yeah,
ideal.
yeah, right. It's so fun. I mean, I feel like it's if anything else, I don't want people to think that we're boring. Right? It's fun. I think trying new stuff is like the heart of everything I'm trying to do. Like I'm creative, and if I don't get that out, I lose my mind. And so, like for me, I'm like, I don't know, let's try it. And who cares if it fails? If it's weird, then it's wrong, and we try it again. So, you know, it's been a new way to get that creativity out. I mean, especially too, as I'm getting older and like I'm not training as much because my body just doesn't want to. You know, like 3-4 sessions a week is where I'm maxing out these days, and which is great. I mean, that's I mean, I feel like that's wonderful. But I got a lot of free time, and so I just fill it up with rash guard ideas.
I love it. I love it. The more, the better. And I think any of
Yeah.
us that have that creative outlet, we do need to keep refining what we're doing just to feel alive and challenged.
Yes.
And you're right in saying the same with jujitsu. You know, give it a go. If it
Mhm.
fails, it actually doesn't matter because you're
Yeah.
just the next step towards the next thing,
Yeah. And
which
it's not
is
even real.
fantastic.
Sometimes I'll be like, we're not even really fighting. It's like a fake fight. So I'm like, does it really matter?
What? Look, Angie, you weren't supposed to do that at the end of the episode. It's not really fighting.
Not even real. I'm sorry to burst everyone's bubble, but
Okay, right. I'm going to end the episode there, Ange, because you just like destroyed
all
us all.
the internet hate that I'm about to get from that clip. It's not even real, you guys.
Get out of here.
That's
Before you go,
sweet.
before you go, I want to know if you're able to ship the Bearoids canister to the UK.
Yes, we're international superstars.
Okay. Good. I will be placing an order. I feel like I should be placing a bulk order so that they can all be shipped at the same time. So
I'm more than
yeah.
happy to do drop shipping. So if you guys ever have a need for an abundance of rash guards, I'm happy to send them your way.
Okay, good. Let's talk after the end of the recording. Now you just, destroyed all of jiu-jitsu. It was Ange, everyone. It was her.
Sorry, not sorry.
It's all right. Thank you for everyone that's got this far. Ange, how can people follow your journey?
You can follow us on Instagram at the Jiu Jitsu Company and also at the Jiu Jitsu Co Fightwear. And I will try to be more loud and more present in front of the camera moving forward.
I'm not sure whether that's a good idea.
You guys don't want me out there, trust me.
I love it. Ange, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was so fun.
You never know what you're going to get. Anyway, on to the next one. Speak to you soon.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode, or watching it even, on YouTube. Clips are on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And as always, give us a like, subscribe, and a follow. And thank you again for listening. Catch you on the next episode of the Jiu Jitsu Loop podcast.